Alright, English 10, welcome to our first lecture for the flipped classroom. It's going to be on subjects and predicates. Pardon me, you may want to have a notebook handy as we go through this. You remember this stuff from 3rd or 4th grade maybe? Maybe some of you still have this down pat. When we talk about subjects and predicates, we're going to only be talking about simple subjects and simple predicates. Here are some rules for simple subjects. First rule is a simple subject is a noun or a pronoun only. Second rule is it does the action of a verb, assuming it's an action verb. Remember, we have some state of being or linking verbs out there too. 99% of our verbs are going to be action, or again, pretty close to 99%. It can never be in a prepositional phrase. So if you've got something in a prepositional phrase, it cannot be the subject. If a noun or pronoun is in there, it will never be a subject. And it answers the question, who or what plus a verb. So how you find a subject is you start with find in your verb. That's going to be my mantra for the entire semester. Find your verb. Then once you find your verb, you ask the question with, like say the verb is running, sorry. Who or what was running? Talking or talk. Who or what talked? Eat. Who or what ate? And usually the answer to that subject or that question is going to be your subject. It will usually appear before the simple predicate in a sentence, but not always. Let's do a sample here. So the verb in that sentence is likes. Who or what likes? And you can even add the extra information if it'll help you. Who or what likes lighthouses? Mr. Ayers, that's your subject. All right, moving along to simple predicates. The word predicate and the word verb are interchangeable. Verb is a part of speech. Predicate is its function. You'll hear me talk a lot about function when we do in grammar. That's what the part of speech does. All right. A simple predicate is any verb or verb phrase. And remember, verb phrases are verbs that have more than one word. You always find the verb first, and then you try and find a subject. Now, right here. To plus a verb, to walk, to think, etc. It's called the infinitive, and that can never be a predicate. So watch out for that. There's two reasons you want to watch out for it. One, you don't want to call an infinitive a predicate. And two, you got to watch out for the to, because that's also a common preposition. And this chapter is going to teach you to look for prepositional phrases. So be on the lookout for infinitives. Don't mistake them for prepositional phrases or prepositions. The verb will come immediately after the to if it's infinitive. There won't be anything in between. Now, anything can be compound. Subjects, predicates, direct, indirect objects, other things that we're learning, predicate adjectives, predicate nominatives, objects of the preposition. It don't matter. It can be a compound. And what happens is you'll find conjunctions like and, or nor, and they're what make the unit compound. It doesn't matter how many subjects you have that have been compounded, it still acts like one subject. So Mr. Ayers and Mrs. Capek try to teach grammar to unwilling students. What's our verb? Try. Who or what tries? Mr. Ayers and Mrs. Capek. Compound subject. The Pittsburgh Steelers are often loved and sometimes hated by their rabid fan base. What are the verbs? They're simple predicates, loved and hated, and you see that the two are connected by this and. Who are loved and hated? Pittsburgh Steelers. Throw a little dialect at you there. You know you love it. And if you don't love it, you better learn to love it. Sociolinguistics. Next. Usually, the subject will come before the predicate in the sentence. That is like the overwhelming majority of the time that's going to happen. But there are 3 exceptions when that does not occur. And you need to note these 3 exceptions, and you need to memorize them. So our first exception is a sentence that begins with here or there. Now, if you remember, I told you here and there are always adverbs. Always, always adverbs. And if that's the case, then they cannot be a subject, right? Because subjects can only be nouns or pronouns. So in a sentence that starts with here or there, you have to anticipate the subject because it's going to come after the predicate. So in the sample sentence, here are the flowers for tonight's event, Well, are is kind of a tough verb. Who or what are? You just kind of have to say, okay, what's the noun or pronoun going on in here? Well, we only got two nouns. We've got flowers, yikes, and we've got event. Event is in this prepositional phrase for tonight's event, so by default it's got to be flowers. Flowers is your subject, are is your predicate. But we might fall into the trap of subject-predicate order where we think the subject comes before the predicate, and we might jump on here as a subject. Don't do that. Second, interrogative sentences. Those are sentences that end with a question mark. Okay? That's the second subject-verb order problem. And what happens is the subject-verb order gets messed up when it's in a question form. But if you turn that question into a statement, then your subject-verb order will be nice and friendly with the subject coming before the predicate. So what is the name of that dog? Turn that into the name of that dog is what? Where name is your subject and is your predicate. Finally, if the sentence is a command or request sentence, the sentence will begin with the verb or the word please. Okay, so we call this command or request, and what happens in a command or request sentence, I just looked at the sample sentence there, is we have something called the understood you. Okay, so if the sentence is a command, it's going to start with the verb, like this one here, give. Where is my cursor? Give. If it's a request, it's going to start with please. In either of those instances, you were going to put the understood you as your subject, which we write as the word you in parentheses. In this sentence, our simple predicate would be take, and in this sentence, our simple predicate would be give. The nice thing about these, if you can recognize them, is you'll know your simple predicate if it's a command sentence, because the sentence is going to start with that predicate. Now, I think we might have a little, practice, and then we are done with this lecture. I am the only bald English teacher. What's my verb? Am. What's my subject? Who or what am? Yeah, that's kind of tricky, isn't it? I am. What time do we leave school today? Turn it back into a statement. We do leave school at what time? Kind of added a little at there, but it gives us the subject-verb order that we like. We is our simple subject. Do leave is our simple predicate. Third bullet. Mrs. Capek played D2 soccer and started for the team all 4 years. We have the compound predicate of played and started. Who played and started? Who or what? Mrs. Capek. That's our simple subject. Finally, listen, boys and girls. That's a command. Simple predicate is listen. Simple subject is understood you. Okay, with that, you can now move on to the exercises. And you will see me back here for compliments.